And it is Tuesday night. Welcome to the lives. We are so excited that you're able to join us. If you're looking to get questions answered, this is the time and place to do it. So we're glad those of you tuning in. We've been in a series about rebooting those of you that have either been keto and kind of gotten a little lax about it, or those of you trying again. And so from the beginning of the year, we started with how to start. And then the second week, we got a little bit personal on the price we pay for keto, not just the cost of the food, but really what does it do to our health. The third week, we talked about satiety and how important it is to not rush keto and really let that chemistry of a fatty diet help you replenish some of those hormones and work for you. We took a little pause last week and did some setbacks because we had a few emails that came in saying I'm struggling, and so we answered some of those questions. And today we are doing one of my favorites, really, where we get to the part about keto that is, it's a little more doctory, it's a little more sciencey. So it's past the easy part. It's really getting into the strategy of what I like to think of the art and science of medicine, where we take what the chemistry books say, and then we involve the human element of what's reasonable, and then if you're on my team, you involve a little bit of spirituality. So I hope you're gonna want to stick around to see what it is I think you have to do at this stage, really, to succeed. And then we've got some great updates for the week. But first, we have some things we do as a tradition on this show, and that is I'm gonna reveal my personal numbers. Again, if you're new to the ketogenic diet, I don't think you need to check blood numbers at the beginning. But boy, it does help when you get to this stage that we're going to talk about tonight. And I am going to have less than perfect numbers tonight. Last week I had really good numbers. I had a really strong fast. I was preparing for a weekend away from kids with hubby, and we went to Billy Joel. And I started my fast on Sunday and got home last night when husband had made supper. And I just didn't have the heart to say, oh, I'm fasting, when he made a really nice supper. He did one of his traditions, which is shake and bake of pork chops. So my glucose is 80, my ketones are 1.7. That's actually higher than I thought they would be. I've fasted since last night, and I did a pretty good 36-hour before that meal. But I've had some stress. I've had a really big setback about 1 hour before the show, and so I'm pouty and trying to not feel sorry for myself. But it totally delays me seeing patients here in Tampa, which is just, I want to kick something or just be pouty. So I thought the stress would do a little bit more to my numbers. We're going to check it at the end of the show. In the meantime, I am going to drink some ketones. And the reason I do this isn't just to drink ketones in front of you and show you some numbers, which is a little stressful. Last week I had such high ketone numbers. I'm like, I don't think a supplement can increase the numbers, which is the point. You have some really good science that you can do when your metabolism is really strong. And indeed, it didn't increase my numbers, but we'll see what it does tonight. The reason I do it is that you should be checking numbers and following the science along with this diet. It really isn't just a whimsical happy land down how do we make people feel better. I'm really looking at the science of improving your heart and lungs and brain and function, and that means you do have to track some numbers. I want to do a good shout out for those of you that have joined me. My music is still playing, sorry. It's a great song though. Those of you that have joined me for my support group here in Tampa, this was week number 4 or 5. It's week number 5, same number as our reboot. And I've just been so thankful for those people that are coming out early on a Tuesday morning. Our meetings start here at 8 o'clock on Armenia Avenue, North Armenia Avenue, and we meet at the bowling alley called Pin Chasers here at 4809 North Armenia. And if you're looking for a support group, it's free, but it's from 8 to 9 on Tuesday mornings. And if you want some questions answered, but you really want to find a group of people that are struggling together, I'm in that bus too. And I've just been very thankful for learning who's in my community and how they're advancing through their struggles, and that what it means to be part of a community that's encouraging and giving you examples of, well, I'm doing better than that, which is really part of it, saying there's comparisons of, I haven't gotten as far as the next person, but I've gotten through that lesson, and here's how I did it. And sharing that is really, I think of it as the benefits of a one-room schoolhouse, which is so old-fashioned. but there is a benefit of seeing someone else learn something and know that you're not there yet, and at the same time turn around and say, oh look, I did learn that skill, and here's how I did it. And I think that sense of sharing happens in a support group. And whether the issue you're trying to get over is a hurt, a hang up, a hiccup, or sex, drugs, rock and roll, we're trying to work on carbs and how do we progress on the ketogenic diet. And I've had a lot of you write in asking if I'll Zoom that meeting. I used to Zoom the one in Sioux Falls, and I just really want to get to know the community here. So I think it's really a distraction when we start adding Zoom to those meetings, that I can't be as attentive and present for the ones that show up. And I really am so thankful that they've shown up for 5 weeks in a row. Some of them, again, driving 2 hours to come to the support meeting. So thank you. All right. I am going to hop over to this one. Yeah. So there's a couple things I want to review. Sometimes I have things happen in my week that I can't share the whole story, but it really is a privilege to be trusted with people's health. In medicine, you can kind of grow calloused to that you forget. These people come to you with their very private concerns, and you do this long enough, and sometimes you're like, okay, did you make a difference? But there are times in life where you get to help somebody that you didn't expect the friendship to be as rewarding as it's been. So the place I'm at right now, clicking around, is BozMD.com. And I clicked on that online course. Under Brains from Trauma to Repair, there's a button called Review. And there's a review that came up in the last few hours that I just want to read, because I think it really is it's super helpful for me to watch what happens when we look at the changes that you help other people learn. And this is one of those where I find it not just fascinating how much somebody you think knows a ton of the things that I've been teaching for years. And then they formally went through this online course. And anyway, let me just read what he says. So I feel this is a review of the brain course that I used to teach for Department of Defense, and I put into an online course, put it on my website. And I do not expect newbies to do this. I expect people who've really been seasoned in what I teach. And this guy, I thought, knew a lot of what I taught. And sometimes you just forget that the formal process of learning it does something. I feel more self-empowered to fix the damage I've done to my brain than ever before. I knew all along that some of my life choices and habits were negatively impacting my life. I didn't realize how much impact they were making. With this newfound knowledge, I feel more capable of facing the hard times that come with removing those habits and dealing with the hardship that come as I face a life of sobriety. I know it won't be easy, but it will be more manageable knowing that there is hope for my brain to repair the damage I've done. I also now have children in my life, and I feel I owe it to them to give them a better chance of success in life than I gave myself. This almost makes me emotional. I wish more people knew the truth about some of the socially acceptable pastimes that are damaging our brains. He goes on to thank me for for the information he learned, and I just really, it's one of those moments where someone you expect to know the information. As he took that course, I just didn't think it would make that big of a difference to him. And I just want to say thanks for writing the review, and I'm touched by how much it meant to him. Another thing I do at the traditions I have said many times on here, so if you're tired of hearing this, you can skip ahead, but I still love, this morning somebody was asking me what they could do for the support group, because I said, no, it's free. You mean you don't want any money? I'm like, no, it's free. Well, what can I do to help you? I'm like, write a book review. It's really important. So this book review was written last week. I think we're up to, I just wanted to check the number. I want to get to 3,000 book reviews, and we're at 2,939. It's the book Any Way You Can that I wrote, and it's about my favorite patient that was super stubborn, but definitely changed the course of my career. Yeah. I can't find myself there. There you go. And Pamela writes in, and I just thought this was a great review. Again, the best way to say thank you is to write a book review. I'm an independent author, and these book reviews are crazy important. So she has a little photograph there. I don't know if you can see it of the book. And she goes, we bought the book, both paperback and Audible. My first read was last year when my husband went keto. He started in the beginning of COVID as he was overweight and knew this put him at a higher risk. He lost 70 pounds in 1 year. Now I'm joining this lifestyle. I reread the book along with the Audible. Dr. Boz winds us through her and Grandma Rose's discovery of ketones and how to begin and stay peeing ketones. So happy that they discovered a way of life that gave Grandma Rose time and a more vibrant life. I am now in my first week and used this knowledge to help me. I even tried a float therapy, which we talked about last week. And when I started with leg cramps at night, she went to the float therapy. Thank you. I am now moving on to reading KetoCONTINUUM. Thank you for the entire truth of your journey and your mom's. And I think I read, I didn't read this one last week. This was another one by Leah. And she says, we have purchased, I did really read this one last week. Sorry. The Any Way You Can is my favorite one to look at. It's the one I have the goals to, it's just another way that I celebrate my mom is by looking at those reviews. So thank you for those that did that. So this book is the more advanced science about how I use keto in my clinic. And Eric wrote in on the 27th and said, I started my keto journey last August, type 2 diabetes, and was diagnosed a couple of years ago. When I started, I had no idea what I was doing. I found Dr. Boz on YouTube and started watching her videos. I needed to get to my next step, and I stalled. I couldn't get my morning numbers where they needed to be and didn't understand why. So I read the book. Yes, the secrets are all in the book. I totally relate to David. I know now what needs to be done. What a great teacher and storyteller. I feel I need to read the other book about Grandma Rose. Yes, you do. Thank you for what you're doing and helping so many. Again, I really appreciate the book reviews. I know that it seems silly, and when people said, that's it, that's what you want? I'm like, yes, that's what I want. All right, so we've got the Dr. Boz ratio taken care of. Thank you for those that have put in the numbers. And again, I love seeing where you guys are from, so thank you for doing that. Right before the show started, one of the gals who usually comes to the support group in the morning, her name is Millie. She said, hi, I missed group this morning. And I just want to say, Millie, that I totally had a great story that I was going to tell about you this morning. So I'll wait till next week. We'll see you at support group next week. All right, so we are going to get to this step in your keto journey, which happens around that first month. So I've been trying to time some of these lectures or these check-ins with what usually happens with people on a ketogenic journey. Now, they're not perfectly timed because lots of folks are at different stages, and that first section of keto really does go a lot faster when you're rebooting. If it's the first time that you've ever done keto, then you're probably right on track for that KetoCONTINUUM number 4, and maybe not ready for KetoCONTINUUM number 5. But I want to show you what really happens in folks that get to this section where they're usually eating about 2 meals a day, and then they think, oh, this has been so easy, and by that time they are peeing ketones. We're 2 meals a day, they've missed a meal. There's a lot of checkpoints that get them to that 2 meals a day, and then if they don't read, they get stuck. So I'm going to give you some hints about what that really means, what I'm talking about. Okay, so this KetoCONTINUUM is what I was talking about. Thank you for giving me a little bit of forgiveness there, as I see that I have to fix that for next week. All right, so KetoCONTINUUM. This is this process that I didn't just kind of pull out of my hat. KetoCONTINUUM is what I use in my clinic to get people not just through that little bitty part of keto, but really the process of improving ketones for life, really reversing some of those medical problems and finding a consistent pattern of health that definitely correlates to to some behaviors of some successful patients. So I had somebody say, this is just this brilliant idea. You are so great for writing this down. And I had to giggle because I'm like, well, I just wrote down what the successful patients were doing and put it in a plot. So again, I really thank you for the people who have come back to the clinic over and over again enough to say, all right, you did this, and then I think you did this. And I would go through the keto continuum with them. And of course, teaching that isn't just a moment of sharing someone's life, but the compilation of patients' stories, successes, and failures that get them to a consistent life of keto. Of course, the first patients was my mother. And for any of those of you that did read the book, you know that she was in a pickle. She did not have time for any forgiveness. I needed to do a lot of things right. And thankfully, most things went right during that story. And the rest of them I told you about in the book. So, all right, I want you to see something that I think people that study this, but maybe I'm the only one that studies this, have noticed in the keto continuum. And that is, we are in this 5th week of a reboot for keto. And by this point, the beginner, and if you can see there, the beginner got through steps 1, 2, and 3, and even pushed into step 4. But when those first few weeks of keto, it really is this graceful period that the chemistry carries you. I mean, they come in with white knuckles saying, I'm going to, if they've done Weight Watchers or if they've done other weight loss programs, they really are saying, I'm going to do this perfectly. I'm like, oh, relax. The only thing you need to count is carbohydrates. And once we get you to this step tonight that we're going to talk about tonight, that's when their discipline needs to come out. The red line here is the place where discipline has to show up in this process. I call this the baseline metabolisms, and it really is not as difficult of a problem. I mean, discipline sounds scary, like people aren't really going to be able to follow it, but the discipline is each step requires the skill that you're going to learn. And once you learn the skill, it really is easy to fall back on, like any habit that you weave in a little bit at a time. Once you succeed a little bit, then you can stretch it a little bit more, stretch it a little bit further. And if you fall, you go back not to what you used to do, but to the littlest increment of that habit. And so I really find this, what we're going to talk about tonight, very important. I will point out that if you're still measuring urine ketone strips, that's all you need to do. The metrics of using a meter and checking your blood samples, I love this stuff, but you don't have to do it my way. You can just check urine ketones for a lot of this. So we are going to step over this into keto continuum number 5. And I am going to show you, hopefully, how to look at something that I think I can do with that mess of the sound thing that happened. So I'm going to review what keto continuum number 5 is. So people have gone from 2 meals a day. They are usually if they're coming to support group, they'll say, I never thought I could get away with 2 meals a day. I feel so good. And then they'll stall. They won't have any further weight loss, or maybe they're eager and they want to say, what do I do next? And I talk about the difference between eating 2 meals a day, and now we're going to use the clock. We're going to measure time as part of your success. And the word is called time-restricted eating, or some people like the word fasting. I don't use the word fasting until you get to 36 hours. I want a couple of major chemistry shifts to happen when you fast. And 36 hours really is the only way I use that word. The time-restricted eating, other interesting chemistry things happen. I want to point out a couple of things that are highlighted here. In this area, you can see that in the 2 meals a day, I ask people to choose to only eat 2 meals per day. But if you step into keto continuum number 5, where we do time-restricted eating, we are just putting those 2 meals a little closer together, that all food, snacks, and supplements are within 8 hours of the day. No eating, snacking, or chewing for the other 16 hours. Now, some things that I want folks to point out is I do want my gum chewers to pay attention to this, that if I look at the places where people have setbacks that I scratch my head saying, gosh, you're doing everything right. One of those places is folks who chew gum. It's one of their coping skills. Whenever they're hungry or they think about food, instantly they put in gum or some sort of cough drop and they say, you know what, it's just a cough drop. And I'm like, yeah, but you're just 100 pounds overweight, or you're just 80 pounds overweight. That insulin is very sensitive to what you put in your mouth, especially that parotid gland is in touch with sensations of food or stimulus. And when they chew gum, they sabotage a couple of things. So gum chewers, this is for you. But the part that I don't talk about during this is whatever you're doing for your morning drink. If you've got a, bulletproof coffee or high fat coffee, that's not in your 2 meals a day. I don't even talk about it. So keep doing that. I want you focusing on the 8 hours. I want you focusing on not having anything that would stimulate that parotid gland for the other 16 hours a day. And as easy as that sounds, there are people who have, as you might have seen on the show, I drink bubble water. I'll mix it with some ketones, but the bubble water doesn't have any extra things in it. But there are some drinks and hydrated water, bubbly. I'm trying to think. The carbonated. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. Other carbonated waters that have things in them. So I tell them all of those rules are you can't add those to your parotid gland during those 16 hours. I really need those 8 hours clean. Now I'm going to show you something here. Okay, so this is the part where I hope I can do this based on that sound thing. So just give me a second to see if I can go to I did it. Okay, so this is one of the charts that's found in let's see if I can pull this over here. There we go. We're going to make it a little bit smaller because I got it kind of big. Hold on. There we go. All right, so this is the chart that if you fill out the workbook or you're taking the online course that I ask patients to do during Keto Continuum number 5. So it is in line with the other things that I've asked anybody who's trying to improve a behavior, whether we're talking about an addiction or exercise routine or even taking your blood pressure medicines. Too many things at once and they explode, don't usually succeed at what I'm asking them to do. I've got teenagers in my life, teenage boys that I'm trying to raise into functional, strong men, and teaching them too much at once turns into a crash and burn that they didn't hear a thing their mother said. But when you look at this chart, what I ask people to do in Keto Continuum number 5 is really carefully look at the first bite of food you have, and then I time the last bite of food you have. So in this process, I'm going to blow this up a little. Obviously, you put the date there. Write down that first bite of food. Write down the last bite of food. And then if you blow this section up, I have them shade in. If they eat their first bite of food, let's say they have their morning coffee at 8, but that's not a bite of food. They eat starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. They start to eat there. And the last bite of food goes in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I see how I did this one. Sorry, I didn't use the clock on this one. I used number of hours. So if the first bite of food went in at the first hour you eat, I want to know, did you make it 8 hours? And really what I'm asking people to do is study themselves. When I look at the patterns of behavior that change on a ketogenic diet, one of those times is this skill that some people fast forward over. I just need you to protect that the 8 hours during this first time restricted eating is a solid 8 hours that you can eat. But after the 8 hours is over, nothing except salt goes in your mouth. Water and salt are the only things outside of that. And again, I don't have you address that morning coffee. That comes with the next continuum. And then what this part is how many days have you done this in a row? How many days did you keep that 8 hour window? at 8 hours or less in a row. And I will tell you, when they finally get 7 consecutive days in a row, they almost never get it the first time. If they're being honest, like, okay, I need you to practice this skill. I need you to successfully do this 7 consecutive days. And like I said, almost never do I see them get it for the 7 consecutive days in a row on the first try. The other things that I try to get them to be aware of is the number of drinks with calories or sweeteners in them. And the reason for that is they can be in your 8 hours, that's no problem. But as we start to address some of the other skills in the higher levels of metabolism, those drinks with calories or drinks with sweeteners in them become something to identify. And many times they don't even know they're doing it. They don't know that that has calories in it. So again, this chart it looks easy, but what I learn as they fill out this chart becomes, it's really a testimony of when you restrict how people feel during stress. The old habit that used to comfort us comes back. So when I look at people who, especially if you watched Michelle on the documentary that we did, I think one time we really got it on camera where she's like, can't I just go do that thing that's next on the list? And I'm like, just stay where you're at and grow success, grow identity from the time when you don't need to think about the best next choice. And the reason that becomes important is the example I'm about to give about myself. Easily it would be getting setbacks, getting news that's a setback, getting something that I'm disappointed in, and finding that coping skill that it tickles my head saying, oh, just comforting with food would be a good idea. And knowing that the skills that I practiced for years didn't start out at going from ketoCONTINUUM number, let me go to this one, which is the one with sound. Oh, this is the one with sound. Going to the ketoCONTINUUM, let's go here, and I gotta turn this off. There you go. Going here, taking that back out. I just want it to be smaller. How do I get it to be smaller? Oh, there we go. Thank you. All right, son, I got so distracted with changing what the screen said. But I look at this process of the ketoCONTINUUM where a stressful place would have landed me back to eating carbs in the first year. In fact, it did. Mom and I did a good job of keto for a while, and then I got distracted with my life and went back on and easily went back to rewarding myself with food, finding a way that I needed to, I deserve, I feel sad. And as setbacks then would happen, just like they happen now, disappointments would happen, I easily reached for those little things that wouldn't throw me completely out of ketosis now, but certainly did back then. And as you progress through this list, getting to 16-8 and really mastering how to keep your parotid gland from being stimulated for 16 hours a day, that skill took me probably 4 months. I didn't even know that's what I was calling it then. I just knew anytime I put anything in my mouth, I was a gum chewer too, or at least a mint, that if I got stressed, I could have a mint. And then I found myself that one mint would lead to another mint, would lead to another mint. And I totally went off the rails on mints. And so practicing that 16-8, holding those 16 hours of only salt and water, I had to get really good at that skill before going to the next one. And many of my patients struggle with this as well. As I look at the advanced 16-8, which I'll cover this week because I'm going to go to something a little more difficult next week. The advanced 16-8 really does get them to move to clean up that final drink. So I'll read this part of it. It says, clean up your morning drink, remove all calories and sweetener, which is why I had them track the sweetened drinks or drinks with calories in them so they know if you're going to have those, they have to go inside the 8 hours. Once they've got that, they don't stimulate their parotid gland for the 16 hours. Now, I leave this drink off there because it's such a powerful change that their morning drink usually has MCT oil in it, or butter, or heavy whipping cream, which is a big one of mine. That for the 16 hours now, that drink counts. So before, and I reiterate this on the other column, they're saying, do not remove the fat from your morning drink before this phase. You needed it to get here, but now it's time to let go. And I really find that when I'm looking at working with somebody with addiction, or working with somebody who's had a brain injury and they really want their brain to work right tomorrow, that if we advance through those skills of that they have to learn, it has to be this foundation, this identity of who they are. If we fast forward and swim right past those skill sets, they really do not have favor. They fall completely off the wagon. When things go bad, they don't fall back to a 16-8. They never solidified that skill in their mind about how to deny food for these certain hours of the day well enough that when we push them into a fast, or we push them into what we'll talk about next week, which is 7 and 8, it truly changes their success rate by not having this, at least for 1 week on each of them. And again, 7 consecutive days where they succeed at those 2 skill sets that are in the workbook before I let them go on to the next one. If you did read the book anyway, Keto Continuum, David struggled with this. He really had a tough time when it came to improving his ability to say no, and he wanted his family to do exactly what he was doing at the exact time he was doing it. And his wife had been married enough years to say, no, you do your thing. I'm not doing that. And that was really hard for him, because the skills to be disciplined in some of these limitations were so socially connected. And I think that's the real key to some of the skills that we march people along on the Keto Continuum. We march people along by using a support group, is because you're going to see that success for the long haul is about mastering these tiny little skills. Like 16 hours without anything in your mouth is not a big ask. But 16 hours, the first one is, you still get to have that morning coffee, and then it's those 2 meals that are within the 8 hours. But the next one, where advanced 16-8, which I think I was at that a year before I tried to do it any further than that, because I was terrible at it. I kept failing. I couldn't do it. And I loved my heavy whipping cream. And I would get in these moods like I'm in tonight, which I'm a little pouty and sad, and I don't know how I'm going to deal with a setback. And heavy whipping cream with coffee sounded like a really good idea, even at midnight for me. So again, the process of what happens next on the ketogenic diet is partly about your metabolism. I don't show up with ketones of 1.7. I didn't do that the first 3 years because I couldn't do this skill. I couldn't limit. I had to put something in my mouth every time I thought of food. I had to put something, in my mouth in the name of breath or whatever it was I was telling myself I needed it for. And getting past that was really dealing with some of the coping skills dealing with that stress in a different way. And I talk about that in the book. I have some other things that I have people do in the workbook. I have you analyze yourself. I have a couple of places where this is how I would deal with stress. This is how I help my teenagers deal with stress. They aren't fasting. They aren't trying to do keto. But they definitely have times where their brain wants to run off and do things that they need to hone in. And if you don't learn that skill, it becomes depression, it becomes anxiety, it becomes a mind that stretches further in the wrong direction without pulling it back into a deep sleep and a really sense of mindfulness. Bad habits lead to really chaotic brain activity over and over again. That's not new to not being keto. That's human nature, that mindfulness, prayerfulness, form of meditation is your personal ability to slow down those thoughts and really hone in that impulsive need. And the skill I had practiced for all those years was, hey, I don't feel good, put food in, and I would call it healthy. No matter what, I would call it healthy, and it wasn't healthy. All right, so we are going to take some of your questions here in a minute, but I want to just give a shout out for those of you that did reply to the emails that we're sending out. Michelle and I have been working on a way to nurture folks that come to our channel. So anybody on the email list has been, if you've signed up for any of the freebies that are on the site, you end up on the email list. If you just said, I want to be up there, it used to be called the newsletter, but I never did a newsletter. So now I say, if you want stories by Dr. Boz, sign up on the website. Those emails are part of us saying, we have a lot of free resources on this channel, maybe an inappropriate amount of free resources on this channel. There are things that we do charge for, and I am thankful for those of you that support the channel by buying them. But we know lots of folks can't afford that, and we are thankful for the people who have put time and energy into either buying the resources and sharing them in their community. We have several people who do the online course as a community, and we want you to do that. We want you to not have to lift the curriculum for the online course when you can use one person with enough resources to share that with other people. There's one other thing I wanted to show you on. Let's see if I can get to this. Not that. Hang tight there. Here we go. And I wanted to do this. Okay, so let's go over to this page here. I have an unfortunate thing to share that I've been working on and it's still not better. Let's go here. And we'll go here. And hopefully that lets me click here. Give me 1 second. All right. So if I go over and click on here and go. All right, so I have another setback. And I'm sharing this with you so that because I've had a few of you write in saying, what's up with your products? So again, one of the places that I do pay the bills is I sell the products that I use on my family, I use in my patients. And Amazon was my first store that I sold sold products on. But as you can see, there are quite a few products that say currently unavailable. So we are in what they call Amazon jail. And it's because there's new rules about anything that has to do with health or weight loss. So this product is available on Amazon, and which is the keto combo, and this product, oh no, that one has it too. All of those other products, this one had the paperwork in it already, thanks be to God, but the rest of them all I need to prove that there's not Prozac in any of these products, which sucks. The paperwork to do it is in process. I'm in line with the 4 labs in the country that actually do the chemical analysis to prove that what is not ever been in this product is not in the product. But I just did want to point out that those of you that are looking for the products, you can still buy them in the Dr. Boz store on my website. So that's bozmd.com, and the products are all on this site. I tell you that because I've had a lot of you write in on the emails, and we appreciate the feedback. We are really looking to do a better job at communicating with you, showing you where the free resources are, and then knowing if those of you that, I have patients that depend on some of these protocols, and they do need the supplements to get to reach the numbers we're working for, and they were on Amazon too saying, where are the products? So it's kind of a bugger. Amazon jail is awful. Yeah, so somebody says Prozac and diet stuff. Yeah, Prozac and like 4 other things that I'm like, who would ever put that in their chemicals, and why do I have to check this? I've never done this. I've shown you every chemical analysis of every one of the third-party things. I check all of them. Anyway, so I just want to say thank you for those that have figured out that the website is where those are still at. It's been a really big hit for us too, because obviously sales are way down, and that's just another thing. All right, let's get to your questions. All right, each week we ask you to write in questions in the comments, and then I have some angels in the background taking those questions and turning them into, let's see, where are the Dr. Boz questions? Oh, here we go. Turning them into the questions for our show tonight. So We've got a few. We'll start with Cheryl's question. She writes in, when fasting for more than 24 hours, do you skip any supplements you take? Personally, I'm embarrassed to say how low my vitamin D got when I moved to Florida, because I stopped taking my supplement thinking I live in Florida, but I don't have any more sunshine here. Then I work just as hard here as I did it in South Dakota. I still take my vitamin K2D3 on my fasting days, but for the most part, I don't take any supplements on the days that I am fasting. I've had a few people write in about their thyroid supplement or their thyroid medication. I remind them that the thyroid medication used to be dosed weekly. So if you do fast during and skip that thyroid supplement during your fasting days, you can just double up on the day that you start eating again. So good question, Cheryl. Jan says, could you please discuss if there is a connection between ketosis and slowly dissolving kidney stones? Yes, there is a connection. I write about this in the book Any Way You Can, and I tried gently to not let people freak out about, oh my gosh, am I going to get a kidney stone? When you look at a kidney stone acquisition, like how do you make a kidney stone? It is a concentration of some waste products and some highly concentrated, you could think of it as a state of dehydration. So a high concentration of the salts in your body that end up in the urinary channels that make in your kidney. And those salts start out as one positive ion, and then it attracts a neighbor, and then it attracts another neighbor. And as the more salt particles that it collects, the stronger the attraction to pull something to it. Now, if the fluid is a different pH, so a different acid-base ratio, or a better dilution, not as concentrated, those are some of the ways where a kidney stone can start to dissolve. Most kidney stones are made in a state that is the opposite chemistry of what a ketogenic urine looks like. I mean, as you pee on those ketone strips, we're not just looking at ketones. There is a shift in the way the pH of your urine changes in a state of ketosis. But just the presence of that ketone changes the chemistry of the urine and creates a process that is favorable for the removal of some of those ions on that kidney stone. Now, this is a general oversimplification, but it really is important to help with the forgiveness if a kidney stone happens and you're on a ketogenic diet. Because if you could look at the shape of a kidney stone, you would like it to be this wide-based deposit of crystals that kind of looks like what a pimple would look like. But that's not how they always grow. They kind of grow in a place like stalagmites or stalactites that come in a cave, and so they get very pointy, and sometimes the neck at which the crystal is holding on to the inside of that kidney, that ureter, that urinary system. Sometimes the neck is what dissolves first, and that's very unfortunate, because what's going to happen is the neck gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and then the crystal breaks off and it rolls down system, and that's a kidney stone. So I will pray that your kidney stones dissolve like nice little deposits, and they do it very methodically in the order that doesn't result in a big drop off of one of the stones. I point that out because I've had lots of people. Oh, please tell me there's sound. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Linda just gave me a thumbs up. Okay. I'm going to keep going. I saw the word no sound and thought, not again. Okay, we're going to go on to Susan from Ohio. And the question is, why is it so difficult for the brain to not want what it sees? I'm back to serious keto and I know what to do, but it's so hard the second time around. So I'm just going to make sure to go over here. Yes, there is sound. Thank you. Okay, just making sure. All right, so she's saying it is very, I had somebody in group this morning saying that the process of improving of getting back into keto they're disappointed that they don't have this big wave of ketones again. And like I said, the second time to adapt that body to a ketogenic state, it is easier, it's faster, and the big wave of ketones is much less. The other part, though, that I have found when I've had setbacks is that the season of setting things up correctly the second time around, like the first time people are pretty good about emptying out their cupboards, really removing those temptations. I always have them revisit their why. Why are you doing this? And don't be cheap on this answer. Really look internally for what are some of the motivations. You know, my motivation at the beginning was to be very good role model for my mom, to be the one where she could lean on, where I was doing it with her. And when that motivation left, it's taken me over a year to be really passionate about saying, no, there is a greater audience that tunes in every week, that reads the books, that really does grow in their health. And I really have had to learn to pivot off of the spirit of what I was doing for my mom, and that some of the best ways to grieve, to get through my true why, was to make sure I remembered that her death isn't about what she left behind that I'm disappointed in, but is what she left behind that I get to represent for her. And, you know, coming in here every Tuesday night isn't the most convenient thing. I have other things I could be doing, with being a mom and a wife and taking care of that problem that showed up an hour ago. But it really is the spirit of the consistent behavior and, you know, that give back to your community in a way that is valuable. And I hope it's valuable. I would say that you shouldn't show up if it's not valuable. So I assume your attendance says you are getting value out of this. But Susan's question says, why is it so hard the second time around? And sometimes I think it's because they really don't revisit what's the deeper motivation for doing this. The workbook does a good job of walking you through that. If you've done it once, revisiting what really inspired you to do that, it changes you. It really helps that brain to say, yes, I see the temptation. And I'm going to pray through this. I'll tell you, going to support group is very, very helpful. I had a gentleman come up to say, I missed last week at the support group. And this past Sunday, I really, really wanted to have, and there was a list of things he wanted. And he goes, you know what stopped me from doing that? I knew I was going to show up here today, and I just didn't want to tell anybody that I did that. That accountability changes we are seen by others in their true sense, and that it really does help us. So Arlene, I will answer your question. That will be great. My privilege to answer your question. She says, at my weight goal, down 140 pounds through keto and carnivore, do I need to continue chasing a low Dr. Boz ratio through extended fasting? I am below 80 without fasting, but have some loose skin. Well, it's a very good question, and congratulations on that kind of weight loss. That is amazing. But people write in and say, why do you fast? Why do you post your numbers when you're fasting? And in part, it is to continue to stress my metabolism at least once a week. Maybe it's that I see patients who've aged in a way that I don't want to happen to me. And I don't mean I want the fountain of youth. I don't want a brain that's not working. I want longevity in the spirit that Grandma Rose got, which was vibrant and healthy right up till the day of the funeral. And that ability to, that privilege of having that kind of health comes with a metabolism that's stimulated. When I had a house with a sauna in it, that was another way to stimulate my metabolism, but I don't have that privilege anymore. I used to have 3 boys that I took to CrossFit 3 times a week. So that was another way to stimulate my metabolism. I don't have that anymore either. So looking for a place, at least in my fasting, until I can get back into a season where I do have a rhythm of either using a sauna or working out. I push my Dr. Boz ratio to hit that 40 or less at least once a week. I do it through fasting because that's what fits in my life right now. When people are looking for autophagy, that is one way that touching autophagy for a moment in the week doesn't really get the kind of returns that they're looking for. The people who get that really robust autophagy have a Dr. Boz ratio that hangs out in those lower numbers for several hours per day, all week long. And so if you're saying, well, I have some loose skin, I'd like to tighten it up. If you're not in a hurry, then really pushing that Dr. Boz ratio at least once a week is going to be a good idea. Finding other ways besides extended fasting to push that Dr. Boz ratio lower is another way to say, we can't calculate autophagy, we can approximate it. And one of the approximations is that glucose ketone index or the Dr. Boz ratio, same thing. All right. Sherry writes in, I'm going to skip the one about Bragg's apple cider vinegar breaking a fast. Actually, I know I will answer that for you. When you take in apple cider vinegar, there is still, the reason people like apple cider vinegar is it usually is still sweet. There's, it's bitter, it's vinegar, but there's still sweetness to it. So what I would do for you, if you say, I want to know if this is breaking my fast, well, check your blood sugar before you take it. Take a tablespoon of it or whatever you dose of it, and then check your blood sugar in 30 minutes and an hour. And I will bet you that your blood sugar is higher. And that's one way to say, did you break your fast? So you can do this for any of these things, but that's my favorite way to teach people how to do that. All right, Sherry says, do you have any suggestions of books or YouTube videos on dementia? And, that's a tough one. Really, I know Sherry has taken that online course about brains, and what motivated me to be so thorough in that course is because when people show up in my clinic and they are already showing signs of dementia, the chances that I can help them, that I can reverse it is very low. We can change fuels, we can do a lot of things, but the people around them are the ones that have to give that support to them. So when I look at the books that are good for people whose family members are struggling from dementia, I love the Norman Doidge's books, The Brains That Heal Themselves and The Brain That Changes Itself. But those are really interventions of injury, not chronic decline. I think the most powerful thing that I've learned in family members who suffer from dementia is to use the pain. That pain of somebody's mind is not working, and you're looking for what to do. Yes, you can put the ketones on them. I've seen amazing awakenings on that, but the family has to be around them to help them do that and stay that way. Early signs of memory problems, I've seen reversals of that. By the time family members are noticing the other person to have dementia, or if I notice it in the clinic, I can prescribe these medicines, but it doesn't make their life better. It is in the prevention. That's why this show and other shows that really look at the process of improving the chemistry that reverses these problems is super important. The gal who said, do I need to do these extended fasts? I would have her shadow me in clinic one day and watch what happens when brains don't work. And it would motivate people to say, oh, okay, I do not want that to happen. And the way you prevent that from happening is pushing that metabolism, doing a workout, which is getting that Dr. Boz ratio down less than 40, less than 20 if you can, and doing it repeatedly. All right, so I love these questions. I know we're right at the top of the hour, but I still want to answer them. Let's see. Dr. Boz, is it safe to stay in ketosis as I'm afraid to come out? I think it might feed my prostate cancer. So looking at the higher and the longer we stay in ketosis, the less inflammation happens. That is what the ketogenic diet really is all about, is a chronic state of anti-inflammatory, and like way bigger than an ibuprofen or pills with anti-inflammatory effects are. So when there are pathologies that are very linked to inflammation going on in your body and you go out of ketosis, you're right, there are some consequences. I can't guarantee whether or not the prostate cancer would respond to that, but I understand your fear. All right, Kimberly, we're going to do the last question here. I have been monitoring my glucose with a continuous glucose monitor. While my blood glucose stays in the narrow range during the day and I don't eat after 2 p.m., my glucose soars during the entire sleeping hours. Why? Number one, I would be checking for sleep apnea. It is not just a little bit of